family, ambition, work, and love. Who will be chosen? Find out on KLS Kampala Love Stories. Kampala's newest love stories airs every day 8:30 p.m. A very warm welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here with me. We're doing a nocturnal sort of like experience today, and it's my great pleasure to have you on here. We have a couple of things to discuss. My name is Benzy Darling, and it's always a great pleasure to see people that you haven't seen in a while. Okay, so everybody's wondering why they hurt. Yeah, it fits perfectly though. It's been a while since I got it, but finally I just said, okay, why not put it on, Yeah, as I share these stories, okay? So today I'm going to be telling you some beautiful story from a friend of mine that shared with me some time back, okay? So as you all know, I've not been around for some time. So I just resurfaced and I've got lots of stories to share with you. Okay. So I don't know what you're doing, but first of all, I want to congratulate you for yet completing another day on the planet. That's a very good thing, okay? And whatever you're doing with your work, with your school, with whatever you're doing, I do appreciate you and just keep on, okay? But without further ado, let's be jumping into the story. It all starts on a cruise ship. So the story happens in Kampala, Uganda. As we all know, we have a lot of stories in Kampala. A lot of stories. So one guy, his name is Henry. Henry is 35 years old, okay? So Henry is a businessman, pretty wealthy. He's got a couple of buildings and he's a businessman, so he imports different things, vehicles, merchandise, call it whatever you. He also has a farm somewhere in Uganda, okay? As a calm guy, he decides to go for a small vacation, I can call it. Zanzibar, that is Tanzania, okay? That is sometime last year. So he decides to go for a small vacation because he's been working all year. So goes there, he's enjoying the cruise ship. There's a lot of music, there's a lot of food to eat, there's a lot of friends and what have you. Okay, so there was a scuffle on the boat. Sort of like people panicked a little bit because they were looking for people's documents, okay, passports and what have you. So he said to himself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the officers and I tell them why I'm here and what I'm doing, okay, because none of the people knew him. He's in a different country. So while he's there comes this girl, and her name is Jean. She's 22, pretty much younger than him. And she's from the royal family. And she's pretty ambitious. She goes to school. And as the sun went down, there was this scuffle about the passports and what have you. So Henry steps in to save the situation. Because the people there were confused. They didn't know the royal family had some sort of like privileges and stuff like that. So Henry saves her. He gets to talk to the guys because he understands the language and he talks to them and then saves her. And then they sit down for dinner, okay? They sit down to have some dinner. They have that and then they exchange contacts, say thank you for saving me. It's been a great pleasure to meet you, but I have to go on because I have other things to do. And Henry goes off, the girl goes off as well. Good evening, some drinks, some food, nothing major. That's it. Henry and Jean returned to Kampala after some time. They kept in touch, frequently meeting up, and going for some dinner, some food and stuff like that. Sometimes late nights, Henry drops her back to her hostel and their bond grew a little bit. They started to meet on charity events to help others and stuff like that. Going to the lakeside and stuff like that. So Jean starts to trust more and more and more. And then she starts to tell him more of her stories and her life. And she finds him a bit kind, for a businessman. she thinks is a kind man because he's always on charity events and stuff like that. Okay, so she finds him to be a little bit different, but there's one little secret that Jean did not tell Henry yet, and that was that she had an ex-boyfriend. Okay, and while Henry welcomed her, Jean's royal family also was a little bit skeptical. Okay, so there were two problems now: the ex, that's number one. So one day, when they were at a dinner somewhere, it was a corporate event, and everything went smoothly. And when they were done, it was time to go. There's a guy who showed up. His name is Mark. Now, like I told you, Mark was the ex-boyfriend to this girl, and Mark was 25. Remember, Jean is 22, Mark is 25, and Mark is a little bit possessive because she has this girl from the lawyer family, and he looks at her, with that sort of like greedy sort of like perspective. All right, Mark shows up, and guess what happens? He sits right across them on the table. The table they were sitting had some few other spaces, and he sits there. So he orders for a nice, beautiful bottle of liquor, and he orders for some food as well. Whatever intentions he had, we didn't know by then. But what happened was, after they opened the bottle, instead of pouring it in the glass, he lifted all the way up and poured it all over the table. All over the table. Now remember, Jean, who goes to the university, she's working on her degree. She's from the lawyer family. So definitely you know that there are some sort of like escorts wherever she goes. She's well recognized and all that kind of stuff. And then on the other hand, our guy Henry is well known as well. Now our guy Mark, who is doing these kind of like funny things, immature things, like very low class, sort of like social, kind of socially not acceptable things, okay? He's just a random guy who Jean once thought was a good guy or whatever, but treated her really badly and everything. So he does these things, and guess what happens? Within 2 minutes, Mark was whisked away, carried away, and taken away by some people. These people were supposed to protect the girl, okay? So what happened? They didn't take him very far, so they took him like to some custody of this location and everything. Then they started to ask him questions. So what are your intentions? What is your problem? What is going on? And all these kind of things. So again, I'm telling you, this is not my story. This is a story of a friend of mine that I met on one of my trips. And he gave me permission to share it. It's not indicating or pointing to any person whatsoever that you know. So I want to first make that disclaimer, all right? And I also want to make another disclaimer that I'm only sharing this story for entertainment purposes. It's not meant to harass or to be pointed at or towards anyone. So eventually Jean, because of her kind heart, goes on to talk to security and says to them, hey, there's no big deal. Like, poor guy, Mark, what does he have? What can he do? Says, okay, let him go. And they just let the guy go. Pays for his drinks that he just poured all over the table, and then he goes.
He's from a wealthy family. She's from humble beginnings. Will their love conquer society's limits? Don't miss Kampala's newest love stories. Every day, 8 p.m. Only on KLS, Kampala Love Stories.
So Henry and Jean continue to see each other. Friends, they meet at family parties and this kind of things and everything. And life went on very smoothly, okay? So a couple of months went by, like 2-3 months went by. Now things are getting really, really heated up in their relationship. By this time, because I told you that Jean was finalizing with her degree, and this time she had completed her final exams and only left with a dissertation. While she was waiting for her graduation, her parents were of course very happy. They gave her a nice beautiful trip, bought her a nice car, and in this time, Mark, they thought he had left out of the picture, gone, because they didn't hear from him after that. And he didn't show any signs of being around and whatever, so they just went on with their happy life. So one day, when Jean was driving from one of the places in Kampala, uptown places in Kampala, she gets stopped on the road. Sometimes there's this myth that expensive cars don't get stopped by traffic or whatever. Yes, that's true to a certain extent, but it's also not true to a certain extent, because once in a while they'll stop. I drive such a car, so I know, I can tell you beyond a reasonable doubt. So she gets stopped, and it so happens that when she gets stopped, they had stopped a couple of other cars, and in one of the cheap cars that had been stopped, all right, I don't know what car it was, but in the story, my friend explained to me and told me it was just one ramshackle car that could not even pass to be called a car. Please, if you can, do like the video. That helps me for the algorithm to pick up more on the channel and give us more mileage for our stories, all right? Because I'm going to be sharing a couple more stories from this one. My name is Benzy Darling 72. 72 is just my lucky number. It's not like I'm 72 years old. It's Benzy Darling 72. So that's how I'm known, and that's how it is, okay? So from my old days, the radio stations, radios and TVs and stuff. So yeah, pretty much the people who know me or we know each other do understand this part. But that's not very crucial. That's not very important right now. So when they stop them, she talks to the officers, they inspect the car, they go around the car and everything. Oh, they recognize her and they say, oh, sorry, mom, please continue with your journey. And then as she's about to drive on, she realizes there's this guy who is looking a little bit weary, like very sort of like exhausted with life and doesn't know what to do next. Perhaps they are going to impound the car. Perhaps the car has certain issues and stuff like that. But what really happened was, after letting Jean go, the officer went to talk to the other person in the other car. So she realized it was Mark. Look how good people in this world do magical things for different people. So she doesn't continue to drive. She instead stops, gets out of the car, comes and asks the officer, what's the issue with this car? And the officer says, hey mom, we just stopped here. No tires, no this, no that. Like there was 1,000 things wrong with the car. So she asked, okay, so are you going to let him go? By this time, the officer does not know anything, does not know if they are related or they know each other. The officer is a bit now kind of like nervous, sort of like confused why she's very interested to know. So what happens is the officer tells Jean, it's a lot of problems with the car. Jean says, okay, how much is it going to cost? One, of course, they'll give you a ticket or something. How much is it going to cost? Are you following the story? Because the next part is a little bit touching, and I want you to understand that my friend who told me this was a little bit nervous when he was telling me the story. But I said, okay, tell me anyway, because I love to listen to stories, all right? And when he did, eventually I asked him, can I share it with some other people? So maybe there will be a lesson or two from it, okay? And he said, it's all right. I just won't disclose real names or anything of the sort. So she goes back to her car, a nice beautiful Range Rover. Range Rover 2022. Not 2017, not 2016, not the things you see on the road and you call them Range Rovers. Oh man, this was a Range Rover, as in capital, in the capital. Dude. So she goes on and picks up a wad. I think many people call it a bundle, but I like to call it a wad of cash from the car. Brings it out, starts to count. Oh my god, how I love to count money. I wish I could show you. Counts the money. Whoa, puts it there. The officer says, no, this is not how it's done. You don't pay to me. You don't pay for whatever needs to be paid here. You have to go to the bank and clear the government's money and stuff like that, because that money goes to the government. So it's them teaching you a lesson. She says, no, officer, don't get me confused. I'm not giving this money to you. I'm giving it to him so he can go and solve his problems, because it looks like he has a lot going on. Now, all this time, she has not talked to Mark. Okay, remember Mark is the ex. boyfriend. And Mark caused the scene some time back when he met her with another gentleman called Henry. She drives off and goes away. Later on, I think after like a couple of days, 1 or 2 days, she gets a phone call. Now you see how complex and how twisted this story is. She gets a phone call from some anonymous number. She didn't know the number, so she picks up and says, "Hey, hello." Person on the other end says, "Hello, how are you, dear?" Says, "Who are you calling me, dear?" Says, "Oh, it is me, Mark. I wanted to get an opportunity, a chance to thank you for the help you gave me. The money helped me a lot." Like, they all went silent. Quiet. Dead silent. Why? Because there was Jean's brother and there was Henry, the new boyfriend, who is a businessman. And Jean is from the loyal family. And they were having dinner. Okay? So, Henry is hearing this for the first time. Jean did not want to tell Henry when she'd made that act of kindness. It is new to Henry's ears right now. He didn't know. And he's shocked. He's really shocked because he cannot believe that a person who met them once when they were out and they were just starting to date, who poured a bottle of liquor all over their dinner table while they were at a dinner gathering, Jean decided to help this person out. So they were furious and Henry stormed off. He is a very cool guy, but this time he lost his temper. He said, "You cannot do that. That's an act of betrayal." He went on and he drove off and left.
In the heart of Kampala, two worlds collide. Can love defy all odds? Catch the stories every day, 8:30 p.m. Only on KLS, Kampala Love Stories.
Jean explained this story to her brother, who was seated next to them. And the brother understood. And because the brother knew the other guy, Mark, he could only sympathize with Mark and felt sorry for Jean. So the brother was determined not to let Jean lose her happiness, not to let Jean lose the person she ever so loved. Okay? So the next day, next morning, things have sobered up a little bit and it's a new day, fresh beginnings, fresh start. The brother calls Mark and said, "Mark, how are you?" "Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?" Blah 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 blah. "So what are you doing this evening?" "No, I'm actually I have nothing to do because definitely someone someone who's in his position will not have much to do." And what happened was they made an arrangement to meet that evening. It was a weekend of some sort. So they met up. Beautiful place, beautiful location. Again, I'm not going to mention any locations or anything like that. I'm going to keep this as simple as possible without mentioning any real names out of courtesy. But the story we are sharing is from a friend of mine who gave it to me. Okay? So the day goes on, as you know, usual things at work and everything and all that. And before you know it, it was time for the evening. They met in this place, had a couple of some food to eat, and then some drinks. So that is the family. The three at first. So that is Henry, Jean, and the brother to Jean. Then as they were there, someone shows up. But the brother had told Mark that when you reach the gate of this place, first call me. So Mark did that and called the brother. So the brother came out and picked him. To his surprise, when he came in, he found the people he had always disturbed, had always spoiled their evening and everything, seated at the table, having some food, drinks and everything. He was a bit scared because this time around there was security. Like Jean had gone back to like who she was really meant to be, leave alone these things of when people, decide to go low, stoop low, and make themselves so little so they can fit in with other people. This time around, she was who she was meant to be. She had the security with her, and all over, like, you could feel the tension and everything. So Mark could not go back. Okay. He could not go back. He had only one alternative: to sit at the table. He sat. They said, "Don't order for anything. We're going to order for you. What do you want to eat? The waitress is here. You order for everything you want." Ordered for some food, something to drink. Said, "Okay, now next step, what we're going to do is very simple. We are going to have a discussion after here. It is going to be between you, Jean, Henry, and the brother. All right? But this place is a bit loud. Let us go to the conference center." The place has a conference center. So they go upstairs to the conference center. Security is there for the girl, because remember, the girl is from the royal family. And Henry is a businessman. Mark, who was the trouble causer now, is very shy and a little bit timid. But our guy, Henry, walks over and says, "Mark, life is filled with many gifts. Life is filled with many different gifts. Some of them, you cannot even fathom them. You cannot get to understand them. So you have to realize your gifts, okay? If you find someone and they treat you so nicely, don't turn out to be a jerk, all right?" Now, Henry, the new boyfriend, is saying it to Mark, the old toxic boyfriend, in front of the girl, Jean, and her brother, who have tested Mark's sort of like misconduct and immature behavior. Okay? So, he says, "One of those gifts, as I go to learn, is I want to offer you a position. I'm expanding my business, and I can only take care of one desk at a time. I've heard about your academic achievements, and I've also sort of like learned about your experience with working with companies and marketing them and making something out of nothing. So I have a venture I've just invested in, but I want to offer you a position. Are you welcome to it?" Now, this guy, Mark, sometimes stubbornness can get you places, but it can't get you far. And eventually, reality kicks in, and you say, "Really, I need to cool off. I need to cool off the steam somehow." So they offer him a position, but he was, inside he was very happy to receive it. But out of, shame, I think, and those kind of things, he didn't want to show it. So he said, "I'm going to give it a thought." Naye gwe, omuntu amanyi obulungi engero z'Oluganda, kankubuuze. Omanye ekigamba nti omulalu waakuweera w'okwatira. Omulalu yeekyusa essaawa yonna. Omulalu agolola engalo ati n'agamba kwako. Akati gwe n'omugamba akansooka mbirowoozeeko. Ogenda kulowooza ku ki? Oyina ki? What do you have? What do you have? Kaakati awo Mark ayagala nno okwezza ate mu kyalo. Kati bamuyambye ku byonna byakoze, bamugambye nkuwadde position mu kampani yange. Ono boyfriend w'omuwala omupya amugambye nkuwadde position mu kampani yange, yadde otukoze bingi, abasanga ku dinner table n'abayiira myenge n'abayiira biki n'abatawaanya, amaze okukola byakoze, bamuyambye, bamuyise, bamugambye twagala kukuyamba, nkuwadde omulimu mu kampani yange, because this new boyfriend is a businessman. They met with a girl, Jean, abroad, okay, on a vacation trip. And when they came back here, kuba Jean is from the royal family. Amusajja waffe oli Henry, the new boyfriend, is a businessman, successful. When they came back to Kampala, nga bagwa mu eyali ex w'omuwala, ng'ate atandika obbakolako effujjo ery'ekisiru, ery'ekinaku, ery'ekyavu. Kubanga effujjo ery'amaanyi, kandikubuulire, effujjo ery'amaanyi ly'effujjo lino. Kwata enkya bw'obanga obadde ng'omuntu avuga Mark X oba avuga ki, bw'obanga oyagala omukolako effujjo ery'amakulu, ery'obukintu ekikulu. Gula emmotoka esingako, gula Range Rover. Oba bw'aba abadde abeera nateete, nga mukyala bamukute bamutute nateete. Gule munyonyo. Babeere munyonyo. Okitegeera, abantu bano bababuulira ebintu bulijjo naye mmwe ebimu temubikwata. Ebintu ebimu byakwetegereza na kukula. Neri nefujja ery'ekisirusiru ery'okujja kati omusajja yajja abayiridde ebyokunywa, abayiridde biki. Munenga they gave him the position. Ku dinner, bamutwala mu conference room, bamuwadde position. But what happened was, he told them he needed 2 days to think over it. Mbadde nkugambira nti omulalu waakuweera, teweefuula ate nnyo nti otegeera okumusinga kuba omulalu asobola okwekyusisawo yonna. Anyway, long story short, what happened was, after 2 days, they kept quiet. After 2 days, he called. And he called this new guy, the ones he was tormenting. Now remember, at this moment, he's his boss. So he has to he has to call him boss, sir, sebo, mwami gundi. So he calls him after 2 days, and he has now to call him boss. So ngamukubira mugamba, no, now you come to my office the next day. It was Sunday, he says come on Monday. So he comes to the office and they say to him, okay, so where do you live? He mentions a place. I'm not going to mention locations now because of the sensitivity of the story, all right? But just know it was not a very good location and it was a little bit far. And they said to him, okay, what is your mode of transportation? How are you going to be getting to work every day? And he said, at the moment, I'm going to find ways or whatever. So Henry, the new guy, the new boyfriend, thinks about it and says, really, I cannot have someone who is managing my other business. Remember, ono ex new girlfriend wono boss. Kati, oligo babadde omulimu yali ex yabakolako effujjo na buli kimu. This time around, he says, now, I'm going to give you a car. I have many cars lying around. They are not very being used right now, so I would like to give you a car. You can be using it in the meantime. And then they discuss the salary. Guess what? They discussed the salary. They gave him a good salary and gave him a car. And then, as I'm going to continue with the story, when they were still there, Henry asked Mark, how would you feel if I gave you another opportunity? And he said, what's the opportunity? The opportunity is I can give you somewhere to live on condition that you staying near and close to us. But of course not in their own compound, but he had so many houses, okay? So he says, I'm going to give you somewhere to live so you don't have to come from wherever every morning and commuting back every evening. I'm going to give you somewhere close to live. But while you're handling my businesses, you always have to stay out of Jean's way, stay out of Jean's family's way, stay out of anything that puts you closer to her. That is number one condition. Number two, I'm only to receive good results from you. And that is why I'm going to pay you and put you in this life. He says, all right, no problem. They go on. The business starts to run. 1 month down, the business is picking up. 2 months, the business is doing really well now. Okay? 3 months. By the time they got to 6 months, half a year, the business was so successful now. Imagine in just half a year. The business was so successful and the rewards, the benefits were coming, profits were very good. So the business starts to make money. So it's like, wow, amazing things are happening and everything. So Jean and Henry start to plan wedding. Now it is wedding things, eh? It is now wedding things, you know? It's a friend of mine who told me this story, so I'm telling it as he told it to me, okay? Now they decide to kuhinjira. Hey. Things are getting sweeter. Things are getting sweeter and better. Now they decide to do kuhinjira. Oh my God. Now listen, the new boyfriend is a businessman, successful, with multiple companies and property. The girl is very beautiful. She's at the university, so education clear. And she is from the royal family. The ex-boyfriend who used to disturb them when they had just started dating and did all sorts of funny, rude things to them, which are on this video in the previous moments. The new boyfriend gave him a job. The other one is called Mark. So new boyfriend, Henry, girl is Jean, and old boyfriend is Mark. So Mark hears that things were going okay when this new guy gave him the job. He said, you are here to just do your job, okay? And don't interfere with my relationship whatsoever. Now he hears they are going to have kuhingira. Because of course, if you're working for someone, there's no way they are going to make such an event or such a very prominent event in their life and you don't get to know about it. You'll eventually get to know about it, all right? And what happens is, he hears they're going to have kuhingira. Remember, in the beginning, I tell you guys, like, if you want to disturb anyone, if you want to take revenge on anyone, do it in a mature way. Do it in a way that God also appreciates. If you want to take revenge on someone, if they are driving an Alphard, you buy a GLE. You buy a GLE. If they are in there 30 million, 25 million moving around, you go for something that is 250 million. And then we can say, hey, I'm Sajam Josie, right? But then if it is just going to be coming and disturbing people with cheap behavior and everything. So this guy is in it right now. He hears they are going to have kuhingira. And they make preparations, the meetings. You know, those meetings for those people, they are very few. They make like 3-4 meetings. 1 month is enough for meetings. We can't make meetings for half a year, for just for just a ceremony. We can't make meetings for half a year. Why would we make meetings for half a year? So, now, I think what we shall do is to have a part 2 of this same dialogue so I can fill you in more. I can sort of like take you a little bit more in the hoops, alright? So thank you so much. It's a great pleasure. Let's call this one out. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for having kept with me ever since we started this live broadcast. It was such a great pleasure to have you. My name is Benzy Darling, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. With all that being said, cheers, I'm out. Oh yes, thank you.
He is from a wealthy family. She's from humble beginnings. Will their love conquer society's limits? Don't miss Kampala's newest love stories. Every day, 8 p.m. Only on KLS, Kampala Love Stories.